Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar about the Connecticut Credential Transparency Initiative. Today, we have a variety of folks representing the New England Board of Higher Education, Connecticut Office of Higher Education, and Credential Engine. We have a slide presentation to take you through to explain the initiative, which we will post and share in a couple of days, as well as the recording to this webinar. So stay tuned for links to those items. But for now, I'm going to kick it over to Executive Director Tim Larson of the Office of Higher Ed.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Candace. I really appreciate the opportunity just to say hello and sort of initiate this. Obviously, the Credential Engine initiative that we're trying to collaborate on with NEBI and Credential Engine itself is a high priority for the governor, Ned Lamont, here in the state of Connecticut, as well as the Office of Workforce Development here in the state of Connecticut. And we just really believe that having a portal and having an area where individuals can sort of one-stop shop, if you will, to find out what is available not only in the state, but in our neighboring communities, to make sure that we're doing everything we can available to make sure we have workforce opportunities for people in the state of Connecticut. One of our charges in the Office of Higher Education is the licensing and accrediting of the independent colleges, as well as the occupational schools. I understand we'll be talking about the occupational schools today. We also handle the state's largest scholarship program, where we hand out over $30 million in financial aid to Connecticut kids going to Connecticut schools. So we do also touch on the public side of this as well. But I think it's really important in this day and age to develop what we would refer to as a lifelong learning platform, which would include not only a bachelor degree and institutions in the college realm, but also professional occupational schools, so that individuals who may not have that ilk of going directly into a college program may have another opportunity in the professional occupational schools that are offered here in the state of Connecticut. And so we're blessed to have over 100 of those. We really want to make sure that they are represented at the Credential Engine, and look forward to continuing the dialogue and continuing to work with all of the appropriate parties to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward here in the state of Connecticut. Thank you. Back to you, Candace.
Thanks very much. So our agenda for this afternoon is to take you through some perspective from the New England region, hear more about Credential Engine and its tools, and then Sean will talk specifically about the initiative in Connecticut. Back in 2018, the New England Board of Higher Education received a grant from the Lumina Foundation to work with Credential Engine in order to support our New England states making use of the Credential Registry and common terms to describe a variety of credentials, from those offered by schools like yours up through four-year public and private nonprofit institutions, as well as licenses and other certifications that are offered by employers or industry associations. Part of the rationale for this project is the proliferation of various types of credentials across the nation. We know, thanks to some great research, that there are over 1 million unique credentials in the United States alone. And within Connecticut, there's an estimated 5,000 unique post-secondary education credentials. And that number represents degrees, certificates, apprenticeships, licenses, and high school diplomas. So our project seeks to help states address an inefficient and a credential marketplace that is inefficient and lacks transparency, confusion about the meaning, content, quality, and value of credentials, and the misalignment we see in the labor market when it comes to demand of skills and graduates who hold those skills. And lastly, we want to help our states better articulate and demonstrate pathways to and from educational opportunities to jobs. So as I mentioned, we're talking about any type of educational credential that you can think of, including those awarded by your institutions. And what we envision is a marketplace, a platform for each of our New England states and across New England that allows students and workers to better understand education and training options and how they link to jobs, to help employers assess credentials and their competencies, but also form partnerships with new providers. We want to help educators review credential offerings and enhance them, and of course, help the New England states inform public policy decisions, and of course, funding opportunities as well. Ultimately, we envision creating a Zillow or Waze type application for credentials across New England that allows people to chart clear paths, to use a common language and terms to describe credentials, integrate this credential information with other types of important data like labor market insights, and create one sort of central repository for information about people's education opportunities from high school and beyond. So now I'm going to pass it to Jen to talk a little bit about Credential Engine.
Thank you, Candace. For those who may not have met me, my name is Jen Briones. I'm the project manager at Credential Engine. And beginning with this slide, you can see a screenshot here. That's a Google search of hotel reservation, Washington, D.C., which is my current hometown. And if you were to do a similar search for, nursing program, Washington, D.C., you likely would not yield as consistent of results here. The travel industry has really consistent, reliable information because they utilize a common language to describe their offerings, and they utilize linked open data as well. So that allows the data to be used across different tools and applications. So regardless if you prefer, when you're booking travel, to use Google, hotels.com, Travelocity, Kayak, etc., you're going to yield those same results, just presented to you in different ways and for different preferences and user groups because of that linked open data infrastructure, which is what we're trying to do for the extremely vast landscape of credentials that Candace was describing. So our common language, the Credential Transparency Description Language, or CTDL for short, is essentially our dictionary of over 700 terms that describe rich details about credentials, such as cost, competencies, duration, etc. Next slide, please. So Credential Finder is what you're seeing right now on this slide. Actually, if you go to the site today, just a few days ago, it has a brand new look and feel, which we're very excited about. A little bit more user-friendly and just easier to find what you need. Essentially, our credential registry is that repository where we house all of that information about those credentials in one place. We don't mean for Credential Finder to be the be-all end-all by any means. It's just an example of how to display the information that exists in the credential registry. We know that one tool isn't going to be the silver bullet to solve what we're trying to do here. So again, you need that common infrastructure so you can customize tools and apps, and you can make that Waze or Zillow of what you need for education and training in your state, for example, that Candace was alluding to. Next slide, please. So credential transparency as a national movement, everything that we at Credential Engine do, we're a nonprofit. So we really, one of our goals in advancing credential transparency is to be collaborative in everything that we do. You can see in the first bullets here some examples of organizations that we partner with in our partner states and regions. And we've even grown since this slide was made. So we currently work in 26 states and regions and 2 regional consortia, including NEBI, of course, to advance some of those goals that you see listed here on this slide as well. In addition to our agency partners, we also have policy partners, for example, so National Governors Association, National Conference of State Legislatures, Data Quality Campaign, these National Skills Coalition, these national policy and advocacy organizations who also understand the value of advancing credential transparency nationwide. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. And then finally here, some additional examples of the work we're doing in our states and why it matters. And the first quote here is from Nick Moore of the Alabama Governor's Office. So really, and I'll link in the chat after this, some additional examples that you can look to see why our state partners view this work as important. And we're also going to hear that from Sean and Niall as well. But I really just wanted to point out again, obviously, especially over the past year and a half, the desire and the need for people to upskill and reskill has dramatically increased. We have seen the whole learn and work ecosystem, the landscape of credentials, the job market just really, really dramatically change. And so we're all going to have to adapt with that as well. It's an even greater case for having clear, comprehensive data about credentials and what they mean and what all of them entail. And so, yeah, that is it for me. I believe I'm passing it over to Sean now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jen. Welcome everyone again. Most of you should be familiar with who I am. Just to introduce myself again, Sean Seepersen. I'm the Chief Academic Officer here at the Office of Higher Ed. And I oversee the Academic Affairs Unit, which also includes all of our post-secondary occupational schools. And all of you work with one of the staff there, V, Ryan, Christine, or our newest staff member, John Kahlo. So just to bring, what was talked about down to Connecticut and to talk about what's going on here in Connecticut in relations to this. This past legislative session, Public Act 21-2 was passed. And what that meant was that it basically codified the credential registry into law and made OHE in charge of the registry and collecting information for the registry. The registry is still, kind of housed in OHE, and then we publish it to Credential Engine to the kind of Zillow type thing that you saw previously. So we've been working closely with Candace over at NEBI, and also Niall Demando, who's jumping on later from the Office of Workforce Strategies, to think about how to start implementing this legislation here in Connecticut. And so, some important things for you to think about with this legislation is that we have been collecting credential information from all of you. So, whenever you submit your applications, it contains information about your programs, the name, description, and things like, how many clock hours, credit hours, those types of things. So we will continue to collect that information, but basically the legislation means that we have to collect some more information from you about your credentials. And also OHE will be collecting more credentials from different sources. For example, some of you for your programs are also part of the EPTL, which you work with the Department of Labor. And so on the registry and in Credential Engine, some of the programs that you have will be identified. You could look at your like electrician program or your plumbing program, whatever, and then it will also identify that that's also EPTL as well, so that people looking for things can see both things there. OHE will serve as the publisher for Credential, so we will be pushing this information to Credential Engine as well. Next slide. Here is what we're calling the minimum data policy and information we need to capture about each credential that we have. All of this information we already collect, but some of the things we don't. I'll point out a few relevant examples to you. One is occupation type, and for occupation type, what we're trying to do is we're trying to ask schools to, if you're doing for all of your programs, it should be relatively obvious where you're headed. So, if you're doing the esthetician program, you're planning on being an esthetician. But all we're saying is that, for the program, identify what the occupation will be. And we're using the standard occupational codes that are put out by the Department of Labor. And you'll see it. It should be pretty obvious when you're looking for stuff why it's there. So that's one example. Another example would be asking schools to estimate what the earnings might be for being in a certain program. So what are the expected earnings? Someone could be for being a hairdresser or a nail tech or something else like that. So there will be, when this is rolled out, there will be some additional questions in the applications that you may not have seen before that will be asking some of these additional things that were not asked for previously. Next slide. We started this effort here in Connecticut at the institution of higher learning level. So we started with colleges and universities. We did a little pilot program with the Connecticut State Colleges and Universities to get a sense of their ability to give us information about credentials, and then to be able to publish it to the registry. So we did that earlier this year, kind of concluded that in July, and looking to expand that effort with more colleges and universities across the state, and then also to start working with you all to think about how to do this with the POSA schools here as well. Next slide. Okay, the other exciting thing coming down the pipeline is that OHE is transitioning their database system from something you don't interact with much to something that you'll be interacting with a lot more frequently. Right now our system is an old access database system. We're building out a new solution where basically each school will have an account on this system. And so basically we're moving paperless. And so things that used to fill out paper for before, you'd be doing online and filling it out there, providing the information on there, and then we'd review it online. Communications would be kind of housed in this database system, and you can get your copies of your certificate and your certification and all that through the database as opposed to having to do it through paper. So I have a small demo, which is 2 slides down. What's the next slide here? I got. Yeah, so the new system will, you can go back up to the previous slide. The new system, you'll be submitting stuff online. You could make changes online too, and we'll be asking schools to do things like upload their catalogs. If there's staffing changes, you can make those staffing changes through the new system. We can track stuff. There will be, you will get reminders as well. I think whereas now, you'd get an email from your program officer saying this or that's due. The system will do it for them. And so you get emails from the system saying, you know, your fire marshal's up, you need to renew your insurance, you know, you got your renewal coming up, your quarterly payments due, all those different things will be on there. We will be implementing electronic payments. So instead of sending us a check, you know, you'd fill out like your quarterly payments, you'd fill it out. You'd fill out the quarterly payment form online, you'd submit your payment online. And so you don't have to do it that way. Financial statements, all that will be done online. Okay, so I got a demo as the next slide here. And Candace, if you can run the video there. So you get a little taste of what the system will look like. And we can't hear.
Hi there. My name is Dan Lynch. I'm a solutions engineer at VOC. VOC is a software platform that specializes in emergency management, business continuity, and kind of work order management. We display a lot of our data in dashboards, and kind of this is how we use our system to show data, to accumulate data. And what I'm here to show you today is the POSA institution portal, like where you'll be submitting POSA applications moving forward for the Connecticut Office of Higher Ed. So when you get your VOC login and you log in, you'll see a page that's very similar to this. You'll see your profile up here. You also have over in this corner your profile, ways to sign out, that sort of stuff. But really the main focus that you're going to have is going to be going to your room. So here in our hamburger menu, you're going to go down to your rooms. And once you select your rooms, you'll see all the rooms that you have access to. You'll only have access to this POSA institution portal here. And it's going to take you right to the dashboard of the room. So really all the stuff that you're going to be using, filling out, and accessing is going to be right here. So just a basic understanding of the form. So we have 2 parts of submitting this process. We have creating it and we have submitting it. Creating the POSA application, it's a big application. So we kind of broke it down into 2 parts so that you guys don't have to have all the information right at the start of it. You'll be able to communicate with the Office of Higher Ed if you have any questions, and kind of go from there. So I'm just going to show you really quick how to submit parts of the application. Once you click that create new application, it's going to validate who you are and what facility you're a part of. They'll show you all the institution contacts so you can kind of see who is going to be part of this workflow moving forward, who's going to get access to these steps, and the people who are able to fill out information for this application. If you're part of multiple facilities, you'll see that a list of them, a list of all of the facilities that you have access to, and kind of submit these applications on behalf of. When you come down here, you're going to have the application type. You might be remembering this from the paper form, but just kind of the different types of applications that you have. And then it's going to automatically calculate the amount that's due for you, not at this point, but when you ultimately submit your application. If you have multiple branches, it's going to calculate how much each one of those is due there. So you have different options here. And if you're just going to submit a new additional classroom site, that's going to pop up here as well. And then based on whatever options you select here, you'll see that different parts of the application are showing up. So in the past, you'd have to go to the Office of Higher Ed website and figure out what parts of the application you have to submit. Now it's going to do that for you. So based on these different items, like I said, if you only have a new additional classroom site, only certain parts of the application are going to be required to fill out. So for right now, let's just say that we're submitting an initial application, and right now only $2,000 is showing is due, but then you have all of these parts of the application showing. What I'd like to do right now is just this would be a best practice where as soon as you kind of see how much is due, let's just create this application. Let's just put it in the system, and we're going to hit save down here in the right hand corner. And then you'll see this pop up that says, let's return to the dashboard. And then you'll see that this has just changed to 1. So this is your proposed applications in progress. So as I said, it's a big application. You're probably not going to have all the information right there at the start. So this is going to give you the ability to go back to that application and kind of see what your progress is made and kind of make those additions there. So once you kind of go through, you'll see all the different parts. So each section, you're going to need to submit all of these parts. So this is kind of like a form that you're submitting. This will be attachment field. So you'll see this throughout, the ability to attach certain documents or pictures or whatever marketing material, certain stuff that you'll be submitting throughout. When you go ahead and hit submit, you'll see that a link to that form pops up right here. So that will give you the ability to go back and then see, and make any changes that you need to as you go forward. One thing that I did want to show you is that the campus roster. This is going to be a little bit different than what you've seen in the past. For each employee, you'll have your positions. Let's say someone's an owner and school director. Your forms are going to fill out. You're going to fill out your forms right here. The disclosure. You're going to upload the disclosure of criminal record, as well as the school director form. In this example, checking off all of these different items, and one of these fields, you'll see this throughout as well. This is called the custom embedded content field, where you're able to have a little bit more say around what kind of text you're putting in there. Paragraph formats, you can attach files. This is probably going to be your biggest thing that you'll use, but you can upload files here using this plus sign. And then again, as you submit these entries, you'll see you can come back in here and make changes to them as you need to. But once you submit, say that here's a required field, so it's required for you to submit the form. You have to check this box to kind of show that you're declaring those items, and that's going to show up here. So again, you just hit update, you return back to your dashboard portal, you can go sign out. Once you sign back in, you'll see the application still there. So you kind of continue that process as you go through until you're ready to submit it. Once you go ahead and submit, you'll see, again, the system's validating who you are, what facility you're part of, and then it's going to show you what applications you have active. So in that active state, in progress. So you're gonna select that, and it's going to show you how much is due, and then this would be where you're going to be paying as well. We haven't added that feature quite in yet, but this will be where you're kind of submitting that payment. If you need to make any changes at this point, you can view that entry and make any changes. So you're like, oh, I totally forgot needed to add a branch here. That's going to show up and update that cost in there. So you see right here. And then you're just going to go ahead and you're going to submit this application. And it's going to go to the Office of Higher Ed. And then once you do go submit that and then you refresh, you'll see that it has dropped out of the in progress and it has moved over into the submissions aspect. And that's going to be where, like, anytime that there's a change, you'll get an email for steps that are then assigned to you. If CT Office of Higher Ed has any questions or anything like that, that you'll be able to come in here. But right now, this step isn't assigned to you, so you wouldn't see anything. You would just see your initial application here. And then one last thing I did want to show you as you submit. Let's go ahead and submit another application or create a new application. Another best practice, or another reason why we kind of have that, you save it as a best practice. You'll be able to communicate with the CT Office of Higher Ed through here if you need to. So let's say you have a question on business status and what that means. You would go to this show toolbox. Once you show that, you'd be able to communicate with your pose a contact here. So I've been working with V. Let's say V. Once you submit this, it'll go to V as an email, and he'll be able to come and he'll reach out, or he can communicate through here. As long as he mentions you here, then you'll be able to see that, or you'll get the email as well to kind of come back in and get that progress. So it's a cool feature that we have that kind of helps you along, and a little bit different than in the past where it might be all offline. Here, it's all in one spot, and you can kind of come back in here and see the threads that goes down here. All right. So I think that's about everything that I wanted to show you today. As you guys go forward, and I'm sure you'll have questions, so just kind of work with Office of Higher Ed, and we need to fine tune this to make it a great work in progress. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Okay, so that's a little demo of what we are building right now. It's not a finished product as yet, but we're getting there, and that just gives you a little feel for what it would be like and what you would be doing. A lot of this will be driven by you, paperless. Hopefully we'll make things more efficient. And tied in with the whole new database rollout will also be those additional questions that we would need for Credential Registry as well. And here are some questions to think about. I think that the Credential engine provides an expanded opportunity for your school to market their programs to a wider audience. In addition, the registry and the information that we are collecting is also going to be part of a bigger statewide initiative for a kind of one-stop for education and workforce. So if you have, at the governor's level, they're building out a one-stop kind of website where say an individual is interested in a certain career. So I want to I want to be an electrician or something. They can go to the website, they can type in electrician. They can get some information about that, and also would populate all of the programs in Connecticut that do training for electrician as well, and that would pop up on this one-stop website. So so it's important to get kind of as much information as we can about credentials, so that it would help individuals looking for training in certain things to get information about that. So there's some other questions here for you to think about. I won't harp on that too long. And then I think that's it. And then we got a Q&A section here. So happy to answer questions. You can use the Q&A box there if you have any questions. And one of us will try to answer it for you.
Yes, we will share the slide deck and a recording of this webinar as soon as they are available.
The question about when is the system going to be available? We're hoping to have this all built out in October. Beginning-ish of October is the scheduled date at least for the build out. And then we'll have to do some testing of it, which I may approach a few of you about for testing. Once we feel like it's where it needs to be, then we're looking to roll this out statewide. So I would say expect to be looking to transition over sometime later this year, November, December of this year, to kind of officially switch over to the new system. Will we be initially updating everything on our dashboard? We will. The stuff that is in our old system will import to our new system. So you wouldn't have to re-enter everything that you've had before. It should populate, it should be there. And so going forward, all you would need to do is the new stuff. If you have a new application or something else like that, that's what you will be doing. That's our aim. You can have more than one person authorized for the campus. Yes. Other questions? And Marilyn, I saw your question. Just 1 second. What was I going to say? Well, we will be doing some training before you actually use the system. So once it's up and running, we'll have a couple training sessions, record stuff, so you'll have a sense of where to find what and how to use it, and go from there. But we're hoping to build a system in such a way that it should be self-explanatory in terms of how to use it. We will be, Marilyn, I'm not sure if I understand your question correctly. We will be importing all of the old data into the new system, so you wouldn't have to enter any of the old data. But in terms of new applications and so on, instead of filling out a paper sheet and photocopying stuff, you would be submitting an electronic sheet and just filling it out online instead of writing it on a paper application. Our system will be used by, I'm using the word used loosely, like if DPH or Department of Labor or something needs information from our system, we will export that information to them. So like the Department of Labor needs to get certain information from OHE, we would be exporting that from the new system to them. The Department of Public Health, needs to know who, for example, who the authorized esthetician and nail tech schools are and so on. We'll be pushing that information out to them too, depending on what information that they need for that. Danielle, I hope that answered your question. Other questions? Now we're at the Q&A part, but I don't know if you wanted to just say a few words about the one stop that's going to be coming down the pipeline. I may have butchered that a little bit, but you can probably speak to it better.
Sure, happy to, Sean, and sorry for running late here. But yeah, just a level overview of the one-stop solution is we're working, OWS is working very closely with the Department of Administrative Services to build out a workforce one stop within the broader MyCT tech ecosystem. And what this system will include is basically an end-to-end journey for a variety of workforce users, whether it's a student, a job seeker, a guidance counselor, a business, et cetera, to make sure that they essentially are connected to different resources across the state. It is not meant to be duplicative of existing services, but more just meant to connect individuals with those services that already exist. So whether it's someone lost their job and they're looking for to enroll in unemployment insurance or to enroll in job training, this site would help connect them with DOL's website and connect them with a form that would allow them to join and enroll in a workforce training program. So it's really a sort of an interconnected system that would connect users across a variety of workforce services across the state. So we are set to kick that off likely in the next month, which is exciting. The Credential Registry would be one of those services that gets integrated into this broader web, so that if a job seeker, for example, wants to change careers and they want to enroll in a training program that's offered in Connecticut, they would leverage the Credential Registry to explore the different programs aligned to their sort of new career interests, and to ultimately enroll in those programs directly via the one-stop platform. So this is all sort of connected into ideally one seamless journey for a job seeker or a student to really get connected with the right programs and resources that they need. So hopefully that helps provide a little bit of clarity in terms of how this fits into the broader technology ecosystem that the state is building.
Thanks, Niall. I have one more open question. When will we expect to have all data submitted, a rough time frame? I'm not sure I understand the question correctly. We will be importing all of the old data that's in the system, and then for new applications, it would be the same time frame as you have now. So for example, renewals need to be done 120 days in advance of the deadline date. That would still be true for it in the new system. So I'm not sure if I answered your question or not, Dawn. There will be technical assistance available, yes. Both through the system, through VOC, in case you have like I can't log on or something else like that. Or if there are questions about, how do I submit a particular form or something else like that, we will have resources available for you to use. And as always, you would be able to reach out to your program officer to get assistance as well too, depending on what the technical assistance is. But yes, we'll have things available. Yes, Marilyn, we'll have like a training video or something. We'll have like a few training sessions that we'll record, and so if people need to come back to it to look at it, we'll have stuff available. That's part of that's built into our contract with the with VOC, that they provide those things. So yeah, it'll be there.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Please be on the lookout for the materials from today and be in touch with any of us with any questions you might have. Thanks for joining.